Today is Mahatma Gandhi's anniversary. So Mahatma insisted the means or how you do something is as important as the goal or what you're trying to achieve. This is why this whole non-violent way of doing things. So how people become peaceful, how people become joyful, it's a big question mark. With a drink or a drug, a whole lot of people are peaceful or joyful. Is that the way to take the world? Or it happened like this. There was a young woman who was married and the husband is abusive. Verbally abusive, sometimes get physically abusive, sometimes get sexually abusive. But she was very peaceful. One day the husband looked at her after a burst of abuse. He said, "How do you do this? I abuse you in so many ways, but you're always peaceful." She said, "I clean the toilet." He said, "What? Even when I beat you, you're peaceful. What do you do?" She said, "I clean the toilet." "How does cleaning the toilet help you to be peaceful?" She said, "I use your toothbrush." Well, there are different ways, but doing it the right way is very important. See, when we talk about the indications in the brain or neuronal activity, we're still talking about a certain consequence, it is not the cause. When we say the cause, in the yogic way of looking at human intelligence, we see 16 parts to human intelligence. The front end of it is the intellect. Right now, our entire idea of intelligence, unfortunately, has become purely intellectual. Intellect means, well, if I ask you whether you want a sharp intellect or a dull one, everybody without exception will choose a sharp intelligence or intellect. Essentially, intellect is a cutting instrument, it's like a knife. The sharper it is, the better it is. Knife is good for a dissection, not good for variety of other activities. Suppose you use a knife to stitch, obviously you will leave everything in tatters. Well, this is the human effort towards peace in the world. We're using our intellect to stitch everything together, you leave things in tatters. And who holds the knife determines what the knife does. On a daily basis, does a knife save more lives or take more lives? If you see, it is saving many more lives than it takes on a daily basis. But knife by itself is not a danger, it is just that what kind of hand holds it. So this dimension of intelligence, we call it as ahankara, which is actually identity. So there is a whole effort in the Indian way of doing things about establishing a universal identity. Before a child starts his education process, because education is seen as an empowerment, before you empower a human being, first thing is to have a cosmic identity. Aham Brahmasmi, it's called. You must have a cosmic identity, otherwise you should not be empowered with education. Now we have a national identity, we have a racial identity, we have ethnic identity, we have religious identities, caste, creed goes further down, boils down to family and then to individual human being. Now all the evil on the planet, all the violence on the planet, all the crime on the planet is essentially a consequence of limited identifications. I'm concerned about myself, not about you, because my identity is this one. Or maybe I'm concerned about two people, not about the third person, because my identity is with this one. So in terms of community, in terms of nation, race, religion, we're identified. But before starting education process, always in the East, we established a cosmic identity, because only then your intelligence will work towards integration, towards a universal consciousness. But right now, we're establishing strong sense of limited identities and we're expecting peace will happen. It cannot happen in the very nature of things, because that is how our intelligence will function, because essentially, our intellect will protect the identity that we have taken, whether it's of gender, race, religion, nationality, inevitably our intellect will work only towards protecting our identity. So, there's another dimension of intelligence which is called as chitta. The next dimension of intelligence is called manas, which means a silo of memory. When we say a silo of memory, there is evolutionary memory, there is genetic memory, there is karmic memory, articulate and inarticulate forms of memory like this, 8 forms of memory are there. Right now, who you are is just a consequence of that memory. The way you think, the way you feel, the way you recognize things, everything is a consequence of this memory. So it is not independent of this memory. Whichever way your memory is stored, that is the way you recognize. Who is your friend and who is a stranger to you is just a question of memory. Who is your parentage, what is your parentage and what is your not this thing, what is your nationality, what is not, is essentially your memory. And beyond this, there is an intelligence called chitta, which is an intelligence without an iota of memory. Why this is significant is, memory gives us many capabilities, but memory is also my boundary. I remember you, this is my boundary. I don't remember him, that is out of my boundary. So whatever we call as memory is a certain kind of boundary. Though it enables us in many ways, it also sets a boundary for us. So there is a dimension of intelligence where there is no memory. If once you dip into this dimension of intelligence, then because there is no memory in this intelligence, there is an experience of universality, there is an experience of oneness within yourself. Because of this, your ability to erase all borders, the boundaries of your individuality are erased. Only if this happens to large segments of people, or at least people who are in positions of power and responsibility on this planet, you will definitely create a culture of peace. As long as I am identified as my nationality, you as yours, it's just a question of time when a dispute comes, we will fight. First of all, if we have to change this, we have to change our economic module. What is significant in our life, this has to change. That's not going to change right away that's going to be too dreamy. See, when economics is the only value in a society, money is the only value, let me put it more bluntly. If you say, there is a big man in this city, it doesn't mean he has a big brain or a big heart. No, he just has a big pocket. That's what it means today in the world. So when money is the only value, competition is inevitable. Where there is competition of very intense kind, as the competition gets more and more aggressive, well, many will fall on the wayside, depressed, broken, in many damaged human beings we will create. And unfortunately, as you mentioned, that number is increasing to a point. See, in 2016, 18,600 children below 18 years of age committed suicide in India. Over 7,000 of them were below 15 years of age. 12, 13, 14-year-olds, if they have to take their own life, I think we're doing something fundamentally wrong in our societies. There's simply no question about it. The schools or the mystic traditions in India always focused on enhancing and enlarging human faculty rather than enhancing knowledge. That your ability to perceive has to be enhanced. Recently, because I've been running this Youth and Truth campaign, meeting all university students for the last 1 month, they've been asking me, Sadhguru, you're answering every question we ask, how is this? You have an answer for everything? I said, I don't have an answer for anything. I don't have an answer in my head for anything, but I just have clarity. I've worked for my clarity all my life to bring my faculties to that level of clarity that there is no mistake about what I see, that you see things just the way they are. I think this will be of immense value in future because information or gathering of information becomes meaningless. There was a time when large populations were… I've seen this in the villages of India, when most of the population do not know how to read, they're illiterate. One guy, some letter comes and he reads. You should see the wonder. Actually, he's looking at the paper and saying all these things. It's truly fantastic. People sit there open mouth, gaping at him, because just looking at a paper, he's saying all this. So that time is gone. Now a simple gadget will know more than the entire university knows. So this time has come. Now is a fantastic time. This is the time for human beings to truly unravel and explore their consciousness, because the burden of carrying information, assimilating it and expressing it in the world is gone. See, all human experience, don't give it all kinds of meanings, all human experience, joy or misery, peace or turmoil, agony or ecstasy, only happens from within you. Is that so? Hello?
Yes.
Is that so? You may think it's being stimulated from outside. No, people are doing what they know best. It's you who's going into these states. So essentially, what's coming from within you, at least what's come from within you, must happen the way you want it, isn't it?
Yes.
The world will never happen 100% your way, never ever, believe me. I've been around long enough. Even if you're just two people in the family, it won't happen 100% your way. 51% your way means you have a controlling stake. 100% your way, nobody will be with you. But what's happening within me must happen my way. If what's happening within me is not happening my way, if somebody can decide whether I'll be happy or unhappy, somebody will decide whether I'm peaceful or not. This is the worst form of slavery. We are giving it all kinds of names. Misery, any kind of misery essentially means your intelligence has turned against you, that's all it is. Your own thought, your own emotion, your own intelligence has turned against you. If your intelligence were working for you, would you keep yourself blissful or miserable? Please, what's your choice, I'm asking you? Hello? You must choose right now. If you could decide what happens in your thought and emotion, would you keep yourself blissful or miserable? Blissful for sure. What you want for your neighbor may be debatable. What you want for yourself is 100% clear, isn't it? So this is all it is. There are no complex reasons. You have not taken charge of your faculties. Your thought, we gave you a most complex computer, but you did not read the user's manual. That's all the problem is. This may look a little blunt and not so humane, but this is the way it is. If you learn how to keep your body, how to keep your thought and emotion, you staying blissful is a natural consequence, isn't it so? Hello?
Yes.
The thing is that you have been into the service of mankind, so has Mahatma Gandhi, and so is the friend I just spoke to you about. So, in a way, you have been transforming lives, and is it that one finds one's true self in the service of others?
Oh, I'm not in any kind of service. I'm just working for a very selfish reason, because I want to live in a joyful and wonderful world, so I'm just working for that. I'm just working for what I want. And this is all every human being needs to do, that why are you stingy on your selfishness? Why don't you be universally selfish? What do you think is best for life? Why don't you wish that it happens to everybody? Let me tell you, because you have brought this question up. This is about 36 years ago. I was sitting on a rock, on a small hill, doing absolutely nothing, and suddenly every cell in my body burst out into an ecstatic state, uncontrollable. What I thought was 10–15 minutes for about 4.5 hours, tears of ecstasy flowing. Then I realized you don't have to do anything. If I don't mess with myself, if I simply sit here, I will burst into ecstasy. Then I tried with one or two people, I tried to make them sit, and it happened to them also. Then I made a plan. At that time, the world's population was 5.6 billion people. I made a plan, in 2.5 years' time, I'm going to make the whole world ecstatic. Because you don't have to do anything. If you simply learn to simply sit here without messing with yourself, you will become ecstatic. But see, 36 years, hello? See? Well, we've managed to touch maybe 400, 500 million people, but that's not my idea of the world. So I'm prepared for a life of failure. I know I will die without fulfilling my dream, but I'll die blissfully because how I am within myself is not determined by the success or failure of what I do. This is all that needs to happen to humanity, that you're expecting outside the whole world to work out the way you want it before you are peaceful and happy. It's never going to happen that way. The easiest thing to do is to make this human being, individual human being, peaceful and joyful. Then we work in the world. Depending on times, depending on how far people allow us, to that extent. See, I want you to know, many great beings have come on this planet. You mentioned Mahatma. Well, there have been Buddhas, there have been Jesuses, there have been Krishnas and Ramas and so many sages and many fantastic human beings. But when they came, if they spoke, hardly 25 people would hear because they didn't have a microphone. But today I can sit here and talk to the entire world. Never before this was possible. So this ability to communicate is for the first time in the history of humanity. So this is the time to change human consciousness. This is the time to change the very shape of what a human being is and what human society is, because never before we could communicate like this. This is the very first time. But if we don't do it now, this time will pass and then it's very difficult. As a generation of people, we are the most empowered generation ever. It's my dream that we also become the most fantastic generation ever. The possibility is in our hands. But between a possibility and reality, there is a distance. Do we have the courage and commitment to walk the distance? That's all we're trying to do. You must walk, you're a young man, You must make sure that no matter what happens to your life, what life throws at you, you cannot decide. What you make out of it is 100% yours. Yes? What you make out of it is 100% yours. If this one thing you take charge, you have created a peaceful, joyful human being. This is the beginning of a peaceful and joyful world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.